It is one of the oldest monarchies in Europe, but today it is fighting for its survival. 6 years after the abdication of Juan Carlos, more and more people are calling for his son, Felipe VI, to be the last king of Spain. The Spanish monarchy dates right back to the unification of the country in the 15th century. The Bourbon family of French origin ascended to the Spanish throne in 1700 with Philippe of France, the grandson of Louis XIV. The dynasty, though, has had a bumpy ride, even with several short breaks. The longest of them came at the start of the 20th century, between the proclamation of the Second Republic, the Civil War, and then the Franco dictatorship. Spain had no king for 44 years up until 1975 and the crowning of Juan Carlos, designated a successor by Franco. But the young king distanced himself pretty quickly from the dictatorship. In 1981, he played a major role in thwarting a military coup against the country's fledgling democracy, and his spirit entered into the hearts of Spaniards as the one who symbolized the reconciliation of the country.
La corona.
The crown, a symbol of permanence and unity of the homeland, cannot in any way tolerate acts or attitudes by individuals who aim to forcibly interrupt the democratic process encoded in a constitution that the people voted on through a referendum.
But the fact that he's been so loved may turn out to be the monarchy's downfall. Since 2012, a series of scandals linked to Juan Carlos: money laundering, tax evasion, questionable gifts. In 2014, after 39 years, Juan Carlos abdicated, handing over to his son. And in 2020, he announced that he was quitting Spain, and he found refuge in the United Arab Emirates. So, will that be enough distance to restore Spain's confidence in royalty? Well, Anaïs Guérin, Rosa Perez Mazdu and Sarah Morris revisit the Spanish monarchy for France 24.
Demonstrators calling for an end to Spain's monarchy on the streets of Madrid. They want their country to become a republic once again.
We're out today because we're convinced Spain's future is incompatible with having a monarch.
The monarchy won't last much longer. It's weaker than ever before, so it's the right time to demonstrate against the monarchy.
Right time, because Spain's former king, Juan Carlos, who abdicated 6 years ago, is being investigated for a $100 million payment received from Saudi Arabia. The news broke at the height of the national lockdown.
It's shameful. There were budget cuts in 2008, and people were dying of hunger. And meanwhile, Juan Carlos was being corrupt. I don't think his son can be any better.
Juan Carlos's son, Felipe VI, has renounced any inheritance from his father and stripped him of his annual stipend.
They're trying to get us to believe that there is only one bad apple in the barrel, and that the monarchy can go on. But every day that goes by, it's clear that there are more and more people in favor of the republican process.
A few days later, René attends a meeting of anti-monarchist associations. They've come together to plan their next campaigns.
This is not an academic debate. We're here to draw up a project to fight for the Republic.
Many Spaniards are grateful to Juan Carlos for helping the country move from a dictatorship to a constitutional monarchy in 1978. But not these activists, who point out that Franco named him as his successor.
His abdication wasn't enough. He had to leave the country. The next phase is the end of the monarchy.
On August the 3rd, the royal palace announced that Juan Carlos was in the United Arab Emirates.
King Juan Carlos has communicated to his son, King Felipe VI, his intention to leave Spain. The king is going to cease living in the palace after his fortune outside Spain was revealed.
Juan Carlos left Spain in a bid to save the monarchy, argues James Badcock, a reporter for the British newspaper The Telegraph. James was the first to reveal the existence of the Lucum Foundation, based in Panama. Juan Carlos was a beneficiary of the fund, but so was his son Felipe.
The
fact that King Felipe was named in this foundation caused a small earthquake. We published that in our Sunday edition, and the same afternoon, the royal family reacted unexpectedly. They tried to put distance between him and his father.
Felipe VI said he was unaware of the existence of the offshore account and was giving up his inheritance. For the first time, the current monarchy finds itself tarnished by the scandals of the former king.
There used to be a kind of pact. People were grateful to him for having helped establish Spain's democracy, even though they knew that Juan Carlos had an easy-come, easy-go relationship with money. But in the end, all these stories have come out.
Juan Carlos's popularity began to decline 8 years ago. In 2012, in the midst of a deep economic crisis, with 1 in 2 young people unemployed, Spaniards woke up to this photo in the newspapers. Juan Carlos posing in front of a dead elephant killed in Botswana on an expensive hunting trip. The trip might have remained a secret, but Juan Carlos broke a hip and had to be urgently repatriated. Many Spaniards are still angry.
It's really horrible. I'm really not proud when I see that. That's the moment the royal family in Spain started to go down the pan.
That really chills me. I honestly don't understand how that man could have been king here.
But we always knew that the Bourbon family were stealing from us and that they behaved badly. They never had any shame.
Spaniards were so scandalised that as the king left hospital, for the first time during his reign, he was forced to apologise.
I feel better. I want to thank all the doctors and the clinic for the care they gave me. I'm ready to take up my duties again, and I'm really sorry I made a mistake, and it won't happen again.
But the popularity of one of Europe's once best-loved monarchs continued to plummet. 2 years later, Juan Carlos decided to abdicate.
I've decided to end my reign and to abdicate from the Spanish throne.
A bolt out of the blue. For a time, Juan Carlos left the headlines, but soon his private life put him back in the news. Jaime Peñafiel, who knows the king well, says his relationship with Corina Larsen contributed to his problems.
Corina wasn't the first. There were many more. She was just the last. She used to live 300 meters from the royal palace, and everyone knew about her. Juan Carlos had promised to marry her, that he would tell his children about her, that he'd divorce Queen Sofia. But he didn't do anything at all. Everything Corina is saying is because she's disappointed. We know that a disappointed woman is dangerous.
Larsen was with Juan Carlos on the Botswana hunting trip. She says she was the former king's mistress for years. In a recording snatched by a former policeman, she appears to accuse him of taking backhanders.
You are going to take commissions for the Spanish companies that have succeeded, trained you.
You are paid by the government to represent the Spanish industry. You cannot take this money. And he got very angry with me. You're so German.
Investigators want to know whether a €65 million gift from Juan Carlos to Carina was part of a kickback for the king from Saudi Arabia. He had brokered a high-speed rail contract awarded to Spanish companies.
Haramain, el ave del desierto.
Commissions aren't illegal, but they are unethical. What they could accuse him of is tax fraud. He's always received commissions his whole life, since the Franco era.
Throughout his 40-year reign, Juan Carlos is accused of having amassed a fortune, according to Carina, recently interviewed in London.
If he gave you a gift of 65 million, he must have 1,000 or 2,000 million of euros.
But this is where we come back to the estimates of both the New York Times and Forbes, which situated anywhere between 1.4 and 2.3.
In 2018, an investigating judge in Geneva examined the Swiss bank accounts of Juan Carlos to see whether money was being laundered. In June, the Supreme Court prosecutor also began a corruption investigation. But despite the allegations, there are many Spaniards who continue to believe in the monarchy.
We think it's our right and our duty as citizens to defend the system because it works well, and we want it to last, because it guarantees our freedoms and rights.
Atocha Diallos has set up an association to support the monarchy. Today, it has more than 2,000 members.
¿Qué tal? ¿Qué tal, Juan, Diego, Carlos? ¿Cuánto tiempo? ¿Qué día hace hoy?
Including these young volunteers who defend Juan Carlos.
The presumption of innocence is a right in our country. Unless a trial takes place and he is convicted, his reign hasn't been tarnished.
Whatever his affairs, that doesn't concern me. What's important is what he has done for Spaniards and for the nation.
Like deals on trade, development and flourishing relations with Arabic countries.
These young Spaniards believe they form part of the silent majority of people. Like Javier from Madrid, who lived through the transition to democracy in the late 1970s.
We're the result of two different generations. Since I lived through the transition, the monarchy represents the fight for democracy, equality, justice and solidarity. And all that is written into the Constitution. And what I notice about the new generation is that it represents new values like unity because of what we're experiencing at the moment.
Marina, who is 13, has been picked for a drawing competition run by the Royal Palace called What Does a King Mean for You?
I'm trying to represent a king who unites Spain by knitting together the different regions to show that we're all united.
For Marina and her father, the monarchy is above all else a symbol of unity and stability. They find it difficult to understand that some people want it abolished. For the first time in Spain's democratic history, a consortium of 16 media decided to pose the question in an opinion poll.
University teachers drew up the questions.
Then a sample of 3,000 people were contacted by a polling institute.
It's the largest poll carried out in Spain since the arrival of democracy in 1978. It's going to allow us to really understand what the general feeling of Spaniards is towards the monarchy, but also towards the republic.
The result? 41% of Spaniards favour a republic, compared to 35% who favour a monarchy. A first in the history of the country. However, the royal family retains one major asset, is supported by most mainstream political parties, both on the right and on the left.
Our form of state is very clear. Article 1 of the Constitution. Spain is a social democratic country, a state of law, a parliamentary monarchy.
I don't think the monarchy is in danger as an institution, even if there is a political party that tries to attack it all the time.
That party is Podemos, the far-left party with ministers in the coalition government.
Hola, Ana. Pues bien, aquí estamos.
Gloria Lizo is one of the few members of the party who agrees to talk to us.
Here you see very clearly what the political regime is. Even in the Spanish constitution, the king is protected by a kind of shield, and it's difficult to get round that. To manage to do so, you'd need this parliament to be dissolved. It seems incredible to me that such an important question should be so complicated.
The outlook for a third republic is far from clear. But in almost half a century, the monarchy has never been so fragile. The future of the Bourbon dynasty rests in the hands of Felipe VI.
Anaïs Guérin, Rosa Perez Masdu and Sarah Morris revisiting the Spanish monarchy for France 24. Well, that's all from this week's edition. Don't forget, of course, you can catch it and the previous editions as well on our website at france24.com. More news coming up very shortly. Thanks for watching.